Evolutionism fails to be a bona fide scientific theory because it is purely based on blind metaphysics. Why evolutionism is pseudoscience, a cosmic lie. Video number 2, Time the Hero. The reification fallacy committed in servitude to evolutionism/materialism. Nobel Prize winning scientist George Wald once wrote, speaking of evolution, however improbable we regard this event or any of the steps it involves, given enough time, it will almost certainly happen at least once. Time is the hero of the plot. Given so much time, the impossible becomes possible, the possible becomes probable, the probable becomes virtually certain. One only has to wait. Time itself performs miracles. Walt, G. The Origin of Life, Scientific American 191 page 45, August 1954. Time is not a mechanism. Any sensible scientist would not attribute to time, an abstract idea, the ability to do anything. Folks, use your common sense and see why this is a certified pseudo-scientific comment. And scientist folks, follow me and see why time is not a mechanism. It cannot perform the miracle of evolution. One can watch time slip by, but time does not answer exam questions, or drive a car from point A to point B, nor make a meal, and it can never perform the ridiculous notion of causing life to spontaneously generate. Why does a so-called scientist commit the logical reification fallacy by making grandiose deceptive statements for evil evolutionism? Using the laws of mathematics/probabilities, the spontaneous formation of a protein is zero. The presumption of evolution is that complex structures can form by naturalistic processes. This is a prerequisite for the blind metaphysical notion of evolution to work. However, the scientific discoveries of the complexity of life prevents this from happening. According to the laws of probability, scientists agree that, if the chance of an event occurring is smaller than 1 in 10 to the power of -50, it will never occur. The probability of a small protein of 100 left-handed amino acids, which is 1/3 of the average protein to assemble, is 10 to the power of 30. Walter Bradley, Ph.D. in materials science, and Charles Thaxton, Ph.D. in chemistry, calculated that the probability of amino acids forming into a protein is 4.9 times 10 to the negative power of 191. Sir Fred Hoyle, Ph.D. in astronomy, and Chandra Wickramasinghe, professor of applied math and astronomy, calculated that the probability of getting a cell by naturalistic processes is 1 times 10 to the negative power of 40,000. No matter how large the environment one considers, life cannot have had a random beginning. There are about 2,000 enzymes, and the chance of obtaining them all on a random trial is only 1 part in 10 to the power of 20 times 2,000 equals 10 to the power of 40,000, an outrageously small probability that could not be possible even if the whole universe consisted of organic soup. Meet the man, the liar, behind the mythical notion of uniformitarianism. Meet another pseudo-scientist, Charles Lyell, a lawyer, dabbling in geology to silence the eyewitness account of the global catastrophe, known as Noah's flood. Charles Lyell is the father of deceivers using time for the cause of evolution. Yes folks, he deliberately lied, as discovered in his letters, to silence the eyewitness account of Noah as compiled by Moses and the Genesis account in the Bible. His objective was to make the earth much older than one could deduce from the biblical genealogical record, thereby causing doubt to the biblical record. However, his lie that present-day geological events, called uniformitarianism, explain the geography of the earth is proven to be a myth. Meet the two deceivers, Darwin and Lyell, that collaborated to invent time that never existed. Darwin, a friend of Charles Lyell, needed a lot of time, about 340 million years in his wild assertion, since he did not have the fossil evidence he expected. The fine graduation of change between the alleged and unseen common ancestor of all and all the known phyla was not present between the Precambrian and the Cambrian, where an explosion of life suddenly appears as found in the fossil record and by which evolutionism is falsified. Darwin bought time for his fairy tale by claiming the fossil record was not understood. He said we will find the transitional fossils in time. Charles Lyell concocted the geologic column using circular reasoning to give Darwin the time he needed. Fossils were used to date layers and layers to date fossils according to his fallacious bare assertions. There were no dating methods then, and even today, radiometric dating is based on a number of assumptions that cannot be verified. A reliable and disputable radiometric clock does not exist. A small sample of different element half-life with the parent two daughter elements and the alleged half-life follow. Polonium-218 to lead-214 in 3 minutes. Thorium-234 to protactinium-234 in 24 days. Carbon-14 to nitrogen-14 in 5,730 years. Potassium-40 to argon-40 in 1.25 billion years. Uranium-238 to lead-206 in 4.47 billion years. Rubidium-87 to strontium-87 in 48.8 billion years. Radiometric assumptions and issues. When the half-life is very short, the decay rate from parent to daughter elements can be verified. However, when the half-life is in the multiple thousands to billions of years as in the last four systems, a few test results involving days cannot be reasonably used for hundreds of thousands, millions, and billions of years. Radiometric dating is pseudoscience which cannot confirm that the decay rate is constant, is consistent, and is unalterable by environmental factors or events in the past. One cannot know what the parent to daughter element ratios were at the time of the formation of the rock, or at the time of death of a biological organism in the case of C14 to N14. Further, one cannot know if events contaminated the sample by adding or removing daughter elements. Radiometric dating is confirmed to be scientifically unreliable by the following discordant results when multiple systems can be tested in the rock. When rock layers assumed to be much older contain measurable amounts of C14 in oil, natural gas, diamonds and coal fields. When human prints, bones and artifacts are found in rock and coal, the formation must be much younger. When the rock formation date is known as in recent lava flows, but radiometric dating yields deep time added artificially by claiming that oil, coal, diamonds, and rocks need a long time to form. Millions or thousands of years are not needed to form rock when a modern clock housing and an ancient hammer is found in rock as in the first and second photo respectively. When oil in a lab can be made from bio-waste in hours to days. When old rail ties when dug up after less than 200 years are shown to be turning into coal, and when diamonds can be artificially made by compressing carbon in a lab, it proves that millions of years are not needed. This grooved sphere was found in the Precambrian sedimentary rock layer, which is the lowest layer. This human artifact in this sedimentary layer falsifies deep time according to uniformitarianism. Time is added artificially by claiming that a fossil takes a long time to form and that soft tissue which decays quickly can be preserved for 80 million years. There are a couple of instances of soft pliable tissue, blood vessels and blood components being found inside the bones of a T-Rex and hadrosaur. The evolutionists were perplexed by the evidence and denied its authenticity and claimed contamination. This was the best route out for the evolutionists since proteins decay quickly and would eliminate the deep time that evolution desperately needs. These findings were then confirmed by a third party. When the findings were confirmed, the evolutionist was forced to defend another more outrageous lie that soft tissue can be preserved for 80 million years. The evolutionist is trapped in the lying game. A giant end-wing feather fossil called Inca-Equiparacensis had original melanosomes which should have decayed with deep time. Paleontologists found unreplaced, unmineralized, still soft tissues intact desiccated muscle with blood-filled vessels in a fossilized salamander from the Ribesalbes Lager State deposit near Castellon in northeast Spain which defies deep time. Using advanced techniques, researchers established the survival and presence of macromolecules in a hadrosaur fossil nicknamed Dakota. It had extremely well-preserved dinosaur skin which contained soft tissue replacement structures and associated organic compounds which deep time could not permit. James Martin, the museum curator, told the Rapid City Journal, "There is cartilage still on the shoulder blade and on a bone called a coracoid." The report also stated, "This fossil also includes the contents of the animal's stomach, its last meal. Not possible with deep time. The deep time lie has entrapped the evolutionist on every side." Charles Lyell gave Charles Darwin the 340 million years he wanted for his fairy tale and to explain away the missing transitional fossils. Creative imagination 19th century boys. Since then the ages of the Earth has doubled every 15 years for 100 years to the current wild assertion of 4.5 billion years. The lie had to grow. Since the discovery that mutational rates were so small and mostly deleterious, evolution needed much more time, so they just take it and make it. The measured annual lunar recession, at the current rate, limits the Earth-Moon system to 1.2 billion years when the Earth and Moon would be touching and spinning together. Oops folks, that is not enough time for evolution. Mutations, the supposed engine of evolution, is out of time. The Roche limit at which point the Moon would break up within the gravity field keeps the Earth-Moon system to about 400 million years. Oh my folks, the evolutionist is losing time. Oh Darwin, your time is almost gone. Lyell's lie is going to fall to measurable C14 in oil, coal, natural gas, and diamonds limits the Earth to less than 50,000 years. Folks, radiometric methods are condemning Charles Lyell's uniformitarian deep time and geology. The Earth's sun gravitational rotation and magnetic field decay limited to 10,000 years. Helium flux and helium leakage from zircons limits the Earth to 7,000 years. Human historical records are less than 6,000 years, and population statistics and genetic studies support the bottleneck of the global flood about 4,500 years ago. Folks, real science is exposing the lie of evolutionism. Evolution, the alleged pond scum to the human notion, does not make fossils. Evolutionists are abandoning the fossil record because it fails to yield the evidence of gradual change. However, as the fossil record never had the evidence to establish a hypothesis in the first place, it was nevertheless hijacked for the live evolution. The fossil record is the record of a global catastrophe which destroyed 90% of all known species of flora and fauna by suddenly burying soft-bodied life forms in waterborne sediment on a massive scale. Only the 10% that is extant survived the global catastrophe. Therefore, the record of dead things, suddenly encased in waterborne sediment before it could decay, is not what the just-so story of change would produce. The evolutionists lied when they tried to force time into the fossil record as a progressive record of change over deep time. The deep time lie makes evolutionism unobserved and therefore unscientific. The fantastic lie of deep time makes evolutionism unable to be scientific since the alleged events happened out of sight of human observation and did not repeat for testing as the scientific method requires. When an alleged science is based on the lies and pseudoscience and fallacious logic will be exposed by real science. The second law of thermodynamics would preclude the ridiculous notion with deep time. Therefore, a telescope, rocks, hours, ice cores, and tree rings are not timepieces and cannot tell time to support evolutionism. Time is an abstract notion and destitute to help evil evolutionism and its fantasy notion of philosophical materialism.